Northern Nigeria was quiet that evening, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes even the wind afraid to move. The sun had gone down behind the tall rocks and dusty farmlands, leaving the sky painted with orange and purple like God himself used his big brush to color it. But that night, something unusual was happening. Something hidden, something heavy. In a small village near the sleeping hills lived a young Christian man named Mikael Danladi. Mikael was gentle, he smiled easily, he loved helping people, even strangers. Everyone knew him for one thing. His courage came from his faith, not from his body. He was not the strongest in the village, but his heart was firm like a stone planted in water that refuses to sink. Every evening, Mikael walked home from the small market road carrying his little Bible in his hand. He didn't hide it, he didn't fear anyone, he believed light should never be covered. But on this particular evening, the air felt strange. Almost like the world was holding its breath. The animals sensed it first. Goats stopped eating, birds stopped singing, and even the frogs stopped croaking. Mikael felt something too, a small shaking inside him, as if his spirit was whispering, "Be careful, but do not fear." As he walked through the narrow village path, the sky suddenly turned darker than normal. Clouds gathered fast, like they were running toward each other. The wind began to blow sharply, twisting the leaves and pushing dust across the ground. Mikael stopped walking. He looked around. Nothing. But the feeling grew stronger. He whispered a short prayer, "Lord, be with me tonight." He did not know that danger was watching him, very closely. Far behind him, some shadows moved between the trees. They were silent, too silent for ordinary people moving at night. Mikael did not see them clearly, but he felt something following him. His steps grew faster, and so did his heartbeat. He reached the small footbridge made of old wood. Beneath it, water flowed slowly, dark like ink. When Mikael stepped onto the bridge, the wood made a loud cracking sound. "Cack, ah, God, please hold it," he whispered. The bridge obeyed and stayed still. But the shadows behind him paused. And one of them whispered to the other, "He is alone. This is the moment." Mikael felt a cold breeze hit the back of his neck. He turned around quickly. Still no one. But the air felt crowded. He held his Bible tighter. "Lord, I trust you," he said softly, though his voice shook. As he stepped off the bridge and onto the red sand path leading to his home, he suddenly heard footsteps. Fast, strong, purposeful, and they were coming from behind him. He froze. The footsteps grew louder, then louder, then louder. Something inside him screamed, "Run!" But another voice whispered gently, "Do not fear." Mikael swallowed hard and began walking again, slowly, prayerfully. The moon came out from behind a cloud at that exact moment, shining brightly enough to reveal the truth. Figures, several of them, were following him. Moving quickly, moving with intention. Mikael's heart pounded. He knew the danger was real. He knew this night was not an ordinary night. But he did not run. He did not hide. Instead, he lifted his face toward the sky and said something only the heavens fully heard. "Jesus, I am in your hands." And in that very moment, a miracle quietly began. The wind changed direction, the trees began to sway, and the shadows behind him slowed, as if something unseen had stepped between him and the danger. The night was no longer ordinary. It was holy, and the story had only just begun. The night grew colder as Mikael continued walking, and every step felt like a drum inside his chest. The road ahead of him curved around a group of tall neem trees that stood like silent guards in the darkness. Their leaves whispered quietly, swaying as if something invisible was moving through them. Mikael didn't look back again, but he could feel the presence behind him growing stronger. The footsteps were no longer slow, they were determined, pushing closer and closer. Even the ground seemed to vibrate with the weight of whoever was following him. Yet something strange happened. The moment Mikael whispered, "Jesus, I am in your hands," the air shifted, softly at first, then boldly. The moon suddenly shined brighter, brighter than it had all month. It felt almost like a spotlight from heaven, and it fell directly on Mikael's path. Behind him, the shadows hesitated. They slowed down. They whispered among themselves. Something had changed. Mikael didn't know what was happening, but he felt an unusual calm wrapping around him like a warm blanket on a cold morning. It was gentle, comforting, powerful. He held his small Bible closer to his chest and took another step. And another. And another. Then, crack, a branch snapped behind him. Not a tiny branch, a heavy one. The kind that breaks only when someone big steps on it. Mikael inhaled sharply. His hands trembled, but his feet stayed strong. Suddenly, he heard a voice shout from behind. There he is. Mikael froze. The shadows were no longer hiding. They started moving fast. Mikael turned his head slightly and saw them clearly for the first time. Several figures, running toward him. Their shapes were dark, their clothes blending into the night. He couldn't see their faces, but he could feel the anger coming from them like heat. Before he could think, Mikael whispered, "Jesus, guide me." Then something unexpected happened. The wind that had been quiet suddenly roared. It rushed down the narrow path, swirling dust into the air. The tall neem trees began to sway wildly, their branches shaking like they were alive. The moonlight flickered as clouds raced across the sky. The shadows behind Mikael tried to run faster, but the wind pushed against them with surprising force. One stumbled, another shielded his face from flying dust. They shouted in frustration as the wind got stronger and stronger. It was as if an invisible wall had risen between them and Mikael. Mikael continued walking, not too fast, not slow, just steady. He didn't know why the wind changed, but he knew who changed it. The closer the shadows tried to come, the stronger the wind fought them. One of the men shouted, "What is this?" Another cried out, "We can't move, something is blocking us." Mikael didn't look back. He stepped into a small clearing where the moonlight poured down like liquid silver. And there, in that clearing, the air felt soft and peaceful again. The trees around him stopped shaking. The wind calmed instantly. It was quiet, too quiet. Mikael's heart softened with relief. He looked at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." But the night was not over. From behind him, he heard one of the men call out with fear in his voice. "There is something here, something we cannot see." Another replied trembling, "Let's leave. This place is not ordinary." Mikael did not move. He stood still, listening, praying silently. Then, just as suddenly as they came, the shadows turned and ran back into the forest, their footsteps fading quickly. Mikael exhaled deeply, but as he walked forward again, stronger and more peaceful than before, he didn't know something else was waiting for him ahead. Something bigger, something stranger, something he would never forget. The miracle had only begun, and the night would soon reveal the rest. Mikael walked deeper into the path, his heart still beating fast, but his spirit strangely calm. The village was still far ahead, and the darkness around him looked thicker now, almost like a giant blanket covering everything. Even the insects had stopped making noise. The silence felt heavy, like it was waiting for something. The moon kept following him, shining like a lamp placed in the sky just for him. Mikael held his Bible close and whispered, "Lord, I know you are not done tonight." As he walked, he noticed something unusual. The air ahead of him looked brighter, just a little, like a soft glow hidden between the trees. The glow felt warm, safe, peaceful, almost like a gentle hand was calling him forward. Mikael blinked. "As that light," he whispered. He stepped closer. The light didn't come from a lantern. It didn't come from a house. It didn't come from the moon either. It floated, softly, quietly, as if it was alive. Mikael stopped. His heart skipped, but strangely, he wasn't afraid. Then he heard a sound behind him. Footsteps. Not fast ones this time. Slow, careful, searching. Mikael turned slightly. He saw shapes again, the same shadows that had chased him before. They were walking slowly now, confused, whispering among themselves. "There he is again," one said. "How did he get this far?" Another muttered, "Why couldn't we reach him earlier?" A third voice whispered nervously. Mikael swallowed. The danger was not gone. Not yet. He stepped back carefully. Then, something happened. The mysterious light ahead of him grew brighter. 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 It spread across the path like sunrise in the middle of the night. The trees lit up softly, their leaves glowing like they were dipped in gold. The ground sparkled faintly. Even the wind seemed to pause, almost as if it was watching. The shadows behind Mikael froze instantly. "What is that?" one whispered. "Don't go near it," another shouted. Mikael felt warmth rise inside his chest. Not heat, But peace. Peace that felt deeper than anything he had ever felt in his life. Very slowly, he stepped toward the glowing light. As he did, he felt a soft breeze brush against him, not from the wind, but from the glow itself, like a gentle welcome. Behind him, the men panicked. He's going into the light. No, no, this is not normal. We should leave. This place is dangerous. Mikael turned around. Their faces were still hidden in darkness, but their fear was clear. Before they could take another step, the light suddenly stretched outward, just a little, like a shield spreading around Mikael. It wasn't bright enough to blind, but it was strong enough to create a barrier. The men tried to approach, but stopped. It was as if they had hit an invisible wall. They pushed forward again. Nothing. They tried walking around it. The light followed Mikael, moving when he moved. One of the men shouted, "I can't go closer. My body won't move." Another cried, "What is this power?" Then they all stepped back. Slowly at first, then faster. Fear took over. Within seconds, they turned and ran, disappearing into the trees once again. Mikael watched quietly. He didn't chase them. He didn't shout. He simply stood in the soft glow, breathing slowly. "Lord," he whispered, "I know you are here. I don't understand what is happening, but I know you are the one protecting me." The light shimmered gently, almost as if answering him. Mikael took a slow step forward. The light moved with him, guiding him, shielding him. He did not know that ahead of him, the most shocking moment of the night was still waiting. A moment that would change everything. A moment people in the village would talk about for years. The path was calm, but the miracle was not done. The night stretched ahead like a long, deep tunnel. But Mikael no longer walked in darkness. The soft, floating light moved with him, sometimes ahead of him, sometimes beside him, and sometimes gently behind him like a guardian watching every step he took. The village was still far away, but this path, this part of the journey, felt different. The trees no longer looked frightening. The wind no longer felt cold. Even the silence felt peaceful now, as if the whole night understood something heavenly was happening. But danger wasn't finished. Not yet. Mikael kept walking, and the ground slowly changed from soft sand to small stones. With every step, he heard the tiny crunch, crunch, crunch under his feet. The sound echoed strangely, bouncing through the trees like someone, or something, was repeating it. He stopped. The forest stopped too. Mikael listened carefully. Nothing. Just silence. He stepped again. Crunch. This time, another crunch followed. Not from him. "Someone is there," Mikael whispered. He didn't turn around. He didn't want fear to take over the peace he had gained. But then, voices. Faint at first, then clearer. "There he is. He didn't run far. This time we must finish everything." Mikael's heart tightened. They had returned. Again. But this time, they weren't whispering. They were marching. More footsteps joined them. More than before. Many more. Mikael felt the ground vibrate as the group got closer. The peaceful glow around him flickered softly, almost like a calm heartbeat. Mikael held his Bible close and whispered, "Lord, you are my shield." Suddenly, the glow strengthened. Just a little, but enough to feel like the air around him thickened with a holy presence. The men stepped out from behind the trees. Dozens now, not just a few. They surrounded him, but not too close. They kept a small circle, as if something prevented them from stepping nearer. One of the men pointed at Mikael and shouted, "Why can't we reach him?" "Why?" Another replied with fear in his voice. "There is something around him, something strong." Mikael stood still, quiet, breathing slowly. His fear had turned into courage. Not because he was strong, but because he knew who was with him. The leader of the group stepped forward. He tried to enter the glowing circle around Mikael. He lifted his hand. He took one step, and then something unexpected happened. A loud sound, not thunder, not wind, not footsteps, echoed through the forest. Whoom. It wasn't frightening. It wasn't violent. It was powerful, like a giant drum in the sky that made the trees tremble gently. The men staggered backward in shock. "What was that?" one shouted. "Did you hear it?" cried another. It came from the air. The sound came again, softer this time, but clear. Whoom. The glowing light around Mikael expanded. Slowly, beautifully, peacefully. It didn't burn. It didn't harm. It simply grew, like a warm bubble of protection. The men tried again to step closer, but they froze. Not because someone stopped them physically, but because fear rooted their feet to the ground. What kind of power is this? The leader whispered. Mikael lifted his eyes to the sky. He didn't see any angel. He didn't see any bright figure. But he felt something, a presence so strong, so gentle, so full of love, that it made the night feel holy. He whispered, "Jesus, please show them that you are real." The moment he said this, the glow pulsed one more time. A soft, gentle ripple of light that danced across the trees. The men gasped. Some fell to their knees. Some covered their faces. Some turned and ran. But others stayed, frozen in awe. Then something even stranger happened. The trees around the clearing began to whisper. Leaves shook though the wind was still. Branches moved though nothing touched them. It was as if nature itself was speaking. The leader stepped back, trembling. "This night is not ours," he said quietly. "This man is not alone." Silence returned, but it was no longer an empty silence. It was full of a presence too strong to ignore. Mikael felt peace overflow inside him like a river. He knew the danger wasn't over. But he also knew one thing clearly. He was being protected by something beyond human power. The men slowly backed away, step by step, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. The forest watched. The wind waited. The light stayed strong. And ahead of Mikael, the path opened into a wide clearing, where the final part of the miracle was waiting. The clearing ahead of Mikael looked different from any place he had ever seen. The trees opened wide like two giant hands welcoming him. The ground shined faintly under the moonlight, and the quietness felt warm instead of frightening. It was as if this place had been waiting for this moment, waiting for this night, waiting for Mikael. The soft glow surrounding him moved forward gently, like it wanted him to enter the clearing. Mikael obeyed. His steps were slow, careful, and full of wonder. He didn't know why this place felt special, he only knew God was here. But the danger had not fully disappeared. Behind him, the group of men gathered again at the edge of the trees. Some were afraid, some angry, some confused, but none of them were willing to step into the clearing. The leader whispered, "This is the last place he can run. We finish everything here." Mikael heard the whispers, but his heart didn't shake. He held his Bible close to his chest, breathed in deeply, and whispered, "Jesus, shine your presence." And then everything changed. The wind that moved like a voice. The moment Mikael spoke, a soft wind flowed into the clearing. Not wild, not noisy, but steady, smooth, almost musical. It moved in circles around Mikael, then stretched out toward the edges of the clearing. The leaves rustled softly, the branches waved like arms, and the air glimmered with tiny specks of light so small, it looked like floating dust, but brighter, alive. The men at the trees stepped back. What is happening? Why is the wind moving like this? It doesn't feel natural. This place is strange. But the leader refused to retreat. He raised his hand, pointing toward Mikael. "We finish this now." He took a bold step forward, but stopped instantly. His foot refused to move. He pushed harder. Nothing. It was as if the ground itself was holding him back. He tried again. Still nothing. Fear washed over his face. What is stopping me?" he whispered. One of the other men tried entering the clearing too. He lifted one foot, but his foot shook, trembled, then returned to the ground like a magnet pulling it down. Another tried, then another. None of them could enter. The clearing was protected, the light that spoke without words. Then, the glow around Mikael grew brighter. Not blinding, not harsh, not dangerous, just holy. It rose a little higher, surrounding him like a tall pillar of gentle light. Mikael stood at the center, calm, peaceful, still. The men watched with wide, frightened eyes. The leader whispered, "This is not human." Another said, "It feels like someone is watching us." A third said, "We can't fight this. This is beyond us." The glow brightened once more. And then something happened that none of them expected. The wind, the light, the silence. Everything felt like it spoke, not with angry words, not with thunder, but with calmness so deep, so warm, so full of love, that it reached even the hardest hearts standing at the edge of the clearing. One of the men fell to his knees. Another covered his face and cried softly. They didn't know why. They didn't understand. But they felt something pure, something that didn't destroy, but changed. The forest felt like it was breathing. The air felt alive. The night felt holy. The moment everything stopped, the leader stepped back slowly. His voice shook. This man is protected by a power we cannot touch. We must leave. Another man asked, but what about him? The leader shook his head. We leave him. This night belongs to God, not to us. For the first time that night, Mikael turned around. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He didn't move toward them. He simply looked at them with calm eyes full of peace. And the men felt something inside them soften. One by one, quietly, slowly, they walked backward into the trees. Not running, not screaming, just leaving, as though something gentle had pushed them away. The path home. The light around Mikael dimmed softly, like a lantern quietly closing. The wind calmed. The trees rested. Mikael stood alone in the clearing. Safe, whole, protected. He whispered with tears in his eyes. Thank you, Jesus. You saved me. The glow shimmered once, like a small goodbye, and slowly faded into the night, as if returning to heaven. The moon followed Mikael as he walked home, lighting every step. He reached his village with quiet feet and a heart full of awe. People would later ask, what happened that night? How did you escape? Why did they leave you? Mikael would only smile and reply, God was with me, and the night that tried to break him became the night that transformed him forever. Summary: Mikael Danladi, a peaceful Christian young man in northern Nigeria, was walking home one night when a group of men began to follow him with harmful intentions. As they chased him, something strange and powerful happened. The wind changed direction, the moon shined brighter, and a soft, glowing light surrounded Mikael like a shield. Each time the men tried to reach him, an invisible force stopped them. They became frightened because they felt a presence they could not explain. In a quiet forest clearing, the glow around Mikael grew brighter, and the air felt holy. The men realized they could not harm him, and one by one, they backed away and left. Mikael walked home safely, knowing that God had protected him in a miraculous way. Moral lesson: God protects those who trust Him, even when danger feels close. Light is stronger than darkness, and good always overcomes evil in the end. Faith gives courage, even when fear tries to take over. You are never alone, even in the deepest night. God is always watching, always guiding, always protecting. Kindness, peace, and prayer can move mountains, even when humans cannot. The end.